So where do you actually get to use exponential stuff in real life? One area is with money. Whenever you take out loans or you invest money and you're being paid interest, it uses exponential equations. So here we go. First example, the formula you need to have memorized or committed to memory. Hint, hint. Commit this formula to memory. A equals P parentheses 1 plus R over N to the NT power. A is going to be the final amount. P is going to be your principal or your initial amount. R is your interest rate. Be careful. If they give you an interest rate as a percentage, you always want to do it as a decimal. And just a quick review, if you had, say, 3%, that's the same as 0.03, right? You take the 3% and you move the decimal place to the left twice. It becomes 0.03. So another example, if I had, say, 4.1%, what is that as a decimal? 0.041. You see that? So whenever you're doing your R, always make sure you put it in as a decimal, not as a percent. N is the number of compoundings per year here. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And then T is always time in years. So if you invest it for, say, 6 months, what is your T going to be? 0.5, exactly. If it's 6 months, you have to say T is equal to 1/2. It's half a year, because T is always in years. So be careful there. All right, number of compoundings. I'm going to jump down to this last table on your last page. Let's go talk about N. If I tell you that it's compounded annually, N will equal 1. It's compounded 1 time per year. If it's compounded semi-annually, N will be 2. If it's compounded quarterly, N is 4. If it's compounded monthly, 12. If it's compounded weekly, if it's compounded daily, okay, I'm going to tell you 365. Sometimes the problem will tell you to use 360. I don't know why. But some books will use 360 for daily. Whatever. So if I ever were to tell you to compound it daily, I'm going to tell you to use N equal 365. No, because that would be 366. 360 is divisible by more numbers? I don't know. Whatever. So these you need to have memorized. Annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly. You need to know what N's those correspond with. Okay, let's go do a couple of examples. You deposit $1,000 into an account paying 4% interest compounded quarterly. Boy, there's a lot of information there in that statement. How much money is in the account after 10 years? Okay. Why do you know to use, nice one. You spent it all shopping. There's no money left. And you're going to do it again and again and again. I'm a slow learner. Okay, how do you know to use this formula? And the answer is because you see that it's compounded quarterly. I'm going to show you another formula in a minute. But you know to use this formula because it says it's compounded quarterly. I will tell you, after my 20-something years of teaching this stuff to students, This next step is pretty easy. Go plug what you know into what variables. It tells you you deposit $1,000. Where's that going to go? That's your P. That's your principal. So here on P, I'm going to put 1,000. 1 plus. Okay, your rate. 4% is equal to 0.04. You compound it quarterly. My N is equal to 4. And I want the amount after 10 years, so time is 10. And it says how much money? That's the amount at the end, right? That's your A. That part is easy for students to do. I usually see it. Nope, I don't see it now. I see that on the test, and I'm able to go like that. What they get wrong is this next step. You have to plug it in on your calculator correctly. Now, the new operating system is nicer than the old one. The old one, look, you had to say caret, and you had to put parentheses 4 times 10. If you didn't put it in parentheses, it did raise it to the 4th power. It gave you an answer, and then it multiplied that answer by 10. So that number was huge. And I always went over to the test and said, where is your bank? I want to go deposit $1,000 and after 10 years get like whatever, $1 million back. Yeah, me too. Sign me up. So I would always go like, I would always put a check and then I would put an X and say, where's the bank? But the new operating system is a little nicer for you. If you were to type in 1,000, open your parenthesis, 1 plus 0.04 over 4, and then you say raised to the power of, and you just type in 4 times 10, it keeps it in the exponent, right? Which is nice. Hit enter. 1488.86. 1488.86. Now, here's my question. Do many savings accounts pay 4%? No. They pay like 0.2%. This would be a great return. Good luck. Anyway. All right, number 2. You need $6,000 in 5 years. How much must you deposit today to have $6,000 in 5 years at 3.1% interest compounded annually? That's the big clue as to what formula you're going to use. You're going to use A equals P parenthesis 1 plus R over N to the NT. Go plug stuff in where you need to plug it in. Okay, you have your A. You need 6,000. You don't know what you must invest. That's your P. In 5 years, so that's your T. At 3.1% interest, so what's your R? 0.031. Compounded annually, so what is your N?
12.
Annually, N is 1. Okay, so I have 6,000 equals P times 1.031 to the 5. I need to divide both sides by 1.031 to the 5th power. So on my calculator, I'm going to type this in. 6,000 divided by 1.031 to the fifth. 6,000 divided by 1.031 to the fifth. 5,050, 60. What did it say? 5,150, 60. 5150.60. Questions on that? Okay. If only 5,000 is available today, what annual interest rate is necessary to have 6,000 in 5 years? Okay, here we go again. A equals P 1 plus R over N to the NT. 5,000 is available today, so what is that? That's your P. What annual interest rate, so we want to keep R in the equation, and it's annual, right? So N is 1. To have 6,000, so that's your A, in 5 years. That's your T. So I have 6,000 equals 5,000, 1 plus R to the 5. We want to solve for R. First thing you need to do is divide both sides by 5,000. 6,000 divided by 5,000 is 6/5. Okay, 1 plus R to the 5th. How do I get that 5th power to go away? I need to raise both sides to the 1/5 power. So I have, I'm going to scoot everything over. I have 6/5 to the 1/5 power is equal to 1 plus R. How do I get R by itself? Subtract 1. So I get 6/5 to the 1/5 minus 1 is equal to R. 6/5 to the 1/5 power, come back down and subtract 1. My R is 0.037. What is that as a percent? Move the decimal 2 to the right. It becomes 3.7.